Why does psychology matter when you're speaking to a 25-year-old or a 65-year-old who aims to purchase a car today? Surprisingly, the customer journey has not changed much over the years. In fact, it's more similar than it is different. But there are some small nuances in the journey that if you hone in, you can greatly reduce the friction in the buying process. But the question remains, how do we get that information? Well, there's a series of interview questions used throughout the customer buying journey. And this is before the purchase and also post purchase. Now, why is this important? If we can figure out the language each generation uses to describe their problems, questions, results, and roadblocks, shout out to Jim Edwards of Copywriting Secrets for that. If we can find that out, then we can learn how to communicate to these groups and help them purchase. Even if you are just starting in this industry or you're a well seasoned executive. So here are the questions. Pre purchase. What problems or challenges have you faced in purchasing a vehicle? Question number one. Question number two. What is your main goal in purchasing a vehicle? Question number three. How would you feel after purchasing a vehicle? Number four. What have you researched about your vehicle? What frustrations did you have? And the last question, what would you like to avoid at all costs in purchasing a vehicle? Now, here's the post-purchase questions to ask. Number one, what piece of information or action we shared caused you to want to buy from us? Number two, why did you buy from your unique sales rep? Number three, what would be the biggest satisfactory want you could get with our dealership? Using these questions, we were able to uncover key consumer similarities and differences between the 25 and the 65-year-old so you can begin using it in your dealership to increase sales and retention. Here's the differences and similarities. Both the 25-year-old and the 65-year-old at a basic core need a vehicle. Why? So they can get to and from work primarily among other recreational activities that they have, mostly traveling. The 65-year-old, however, primarily focuses on safety and luxury aspects versus the 25-year-old who focuses on affordability and convenience. The 25-year-old trusted review sites like Carfax and reviews from digital sites like Carvana versus speaking with a sales rep. The 65-year-old, however, is more trusting of a salesperson and wants to understand their reason for choosing a specific vehicle over another one. The 25-year-old continues to focus on the feeling of individuality and accessibility in their day-to-day schedule to control their day, while the 65-year-old focuses on the feeling of novelty and uniqueness as an expression of their innermost personality when choosing a vehicle. But now let's get to finance. Avoiding high interest rates and high payments is at the top of the list for reasons why a 25-year-old would purchase a vehicle. Now, the 65-year-old, they're more than likely retired. They want to avoid a lengthy loan and make a large cash deposit to purchase the car either in total or with very low lease terms. Now, how does this play into the psychology behind why these two groups buy? Well, when we look at digital promotions, we need to understand that we have to use the preferred media to connect to each generation. Each generation is very, very unique. So with the 25-year-olds, they would naturally fall into the millennial generation, the generation that I am currently in. In this generation, we trust social proof and we trust results. So we can use the aspect of social proof when we market to this audience by showing testimonials of people actually having a great time with the car that we're looking to purchase. Whether that's a video, an image, it could be anything. Whether we go to sites like Carvana where we get to test drive the car and then see if we like it or not, or go to Carfax where we're able to see other people's reviews of this car and why they liked it, that drives growth. Because we've grown up in a generation where we inherently distrust any major media source. So we want to experience that on an innate, deep level because it's not real unless it happens to you, right? So for the millennials, that is the way to market to them. For the older generation, people that are still around the age of 65 plus, the people that are on the cusp of the baby boomers getting into the silent generation, those people, they want to know that they are understood, that they are heard, and that they can trust you. but it's a different kind of trust. See, the millennials in and of itself generally have a distrust for the industry. The older generation believes that the only way they can get the best information about this car is not from the manufacturer, but from the people who work with the cars on a day-to-day basis. And they're not wrong. So the older generation wants to talk to a seasoned salesperson, somebody that actually understands the ins and outs of multiple cars and has an expertise in that field, who's able to tell them why this car would be perfect for them. In a way, it's a little bit of a confirmation bias, because if a senior person comes in already with an idea in mind of the car that they want and why they want it, and then the salesperson is able to listen effectively and deliver the points that the older person is speaking on, the sale will be made. And it's not done in a sense that it's unethical, just selling to sell, but it's done in a way that you're actually understanding the issues. Once again, problems, questions, results, and roadblocks of that person, and adequately expressing that in a way that they understand. And when that occurs, that sale is then made. So how do you market to these people, though? How do you market to the older generation if they want face-to-face? Well, the way to do it isn't by sending them to landing pages or review sites or anything like that. That can be used as a backup. What you do is you encourage them to come into the dealership. You give them an incentive to come see you, because when they go into a dealership, they're not going to that dealership. They're going to see a person. So who is that person to that older generation person? Who is that one trusted person that maybe came from a word of mouth referral, where Johnny down the street who just bought his new Lexus IS said to Mary, you have to go see Tony at Lexus Greenwood. That person knows who he's talking about. And then the 65-year-old comes in and actually purchases as a result of that. You remarket to them with old market ways. It still works because word of mouth doesn't change. So we utilize what's already working and we just amplify that through other means, whether that's print, whether that's digital, whatever it may be. But that method still works for the older generation, and for the younger generation, we just use word of mouth and apply it on digital. So those are the ways that you can adequately get the right questions pre-purchase and post-purchase to understand how to market to both a 25-year-old purchasing a car or a 65-year-old purchasing a car. And if you want the questions that you can use the template. I have a link down below that you can click and just get it for free. Get all of the questions that you need so that you can begin implementing that into your dealership, whether you are a newbie or a seasoned executive, and start getting results.